Chapter 1. Laying Plans. Sun Tzu said, "The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject of interest which can on no account be neglected. The art of war then is governed by 5 constant factors to be taken into account when seeking to determine the conditions obtained in the field. These are 1. Moral law, 2. Heaven, 3. Earth, 4. The commander, 5. Method and discipline. The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler, so that they will follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. Heaven signifies night and day, cold and heat, times and seasons. Earth comprises distances great and small, danger and security, open ground and narrow passes, the chances of life and death. The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. By method and discipline are to be understood the marshalling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the graduations of rank among the officers, the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army, and the control of military expenditure. These 5 heads should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious. He who knows them not will fail. Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made the basis of a comparison in this wise. 1. Which of the 2 sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? 2. Which of the 2 generals has most ability? 3. With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? 4. On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? 5. Which army is stronger? 6. On which side are officers and men more highly trained? 7. In which army is there the greater constancy both in reward and punishment? By means of these 7 considerations I can forecast victory or defeat. The general that hearkens to my counsel and acts upon it will conquer. Let such a one be retained in command. The general that hearkens not to my counsel nor acts upon it will suffer defeat. Let such a one be dismissed. While heeding the profit of my counsel, helpful circumstances over and beyond the ordinary rules. According as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. Hold out baits to entice the enemy. Feign disorder and crush him. If he is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is in superior strength, evade him. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. If his forces are united, separate them. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. These military devices, leading to victory, must not be divulged beforehand. Now the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple ere the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but few calculations beforehand. Thus do many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations to defeat. How much more no calculation at all? It is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. Chapter 2. Waging War. Sun Tzu said, "In the operations of war, where there are in the field 1,000 swift chariots, as many heavy chariots, and 100,000 mail-clad soldiers, with provisions enough to carry them 1,000 ally, the expenditure at home and at the front, including entertainment of guests, small items such as glue and paint, and some spent on chariots and armor, will reach the total of 1,000 ounces of silver per day. Such is the cost of raising an army of 100,000 men. When you engage in actual fighting, if victory is long in coming, then men's weapons will grow dull, and their ardor will be damped. If you lay siege to a town, you will exhaust your strength. Again, if the campaign is protracted, the resources of the state will not be equal to the strain. Now, when your weapons are dull, your ardor damped, your strength exhausted, and your treasure spent, other chieftains will spring up to take advantage of your extremity. Then no man, however wise, will be able to avert the consequences that must ensue. Thus, though we have
Game over again.
Cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. It is only one who is thoroughly acquainted with the evils of war that can thoroughly understand the profitable way of carrying it on. The skillful soldier does not raise a second levy, neither are his supply wagons loaded more than twice. Bring war material with you from home.
Game over again.
Thus the army will have food enough for its needs. Poverty of the state exchequer causes an army to be maintained by contributions from a distance. Contributing to maintaining an army at a distance causes the people to be impoverished. On the other hand, the proximity of an army causes prices to go up, and high prices cause the people's substance to be drained away. When their substance is drained away, the peasantry will be afflicted by heavy exactions. With this loss of substance and exhaustion of strength, the homes of the people will be stripped bare, and 3/10 of their income will be dissipated, while government expenses for broken chariots, worn-out horses, breastplates and helmets, bows and arrows, spears and shields, protective mantles, draft oxen and heavy wagons will amount to 4/10 of its total revenue. Hence, a wise general makes a point of foraging on the enemy. One cartload of the enemy's provisions is equivalent to 20 of one's own, and likewise a single pick of his provender is equivalent to 20 from one's own store. Now, in order to kill the enemy, our men must be roused to anger. If there may be advantage from defeating the enemy, they must have their rewards. Therefore, in chariot fighting, if 10 or more chariots have been taken, those should be rewarded who took the first. Our own flag should be substituted for those of the enemy, and the chariots mingled and used in conjunction with ours. The captured soldiers should be kindly treated and kept. This is called using the conquered foe to augment one's own strength. In war, then, let your great object be victory, not lengthy campaigns. Thus it may be known that the leader of armies is the arbiter of the people's fate, the man on whom it depends whether the nation shall be in peace or in peril. Chapter 3. Attack by Stratagem. Sun Tzu said, "In the practical art of war, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so good. So too, it is better to recapture an army entire than to destroy it. To capture a regiment, a detachment, or a company entire than to destroy them. Hence, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Thus, the highest form of generalship is to balk the enemy's plans. The next best is to prevent the junction of the enemy's forces. The next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the field. And the worst policy of all is to besiege walled cities. The rule is not to besiege walled cities if it can possibly be avoided. The preparation of mantlets, movable shelters, and various implements of war will take up 3 whole months, and the piling up of mounds over against the walls will take 3 months more. The general, unable to control his irritation, will launch his men to the assault like swarming ants, with the result that 1/3 of his men are slain, while the town still remains untaken. Such are the disastrous effects of a siege. Therefore, the skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting. He captures their cities without laying siege to them. He overthrows their kingdom without lengthy operations. With his forces intact, he will dispute the mastery of the empire, and thus, without losing a man, his triumph will be complete. This is the method of attacking by stratagem. It is the rule in war, if our forces are 10 and the enemy's 1, to surround him. If 5 to 1, to attack him. If twice as numerous, to divide our army into 2. If equally matched, we can offer battle. If slightly inferior in numbers, we can avoid the enemy. If quite unequal in every way, we can flee from him. Hence, though an obstinate fight may be made by a small force, in the end it must be captured by a larger force. Now the general is the bulwark of the state. If the bulwark is complete at all points, the state will be strong. If the bulwark is defective, the state will be weak. There are 3 ways in which a ruler can bring misfortune upon his army. 1. By commanding the army to advance or to retreat, being ignorant of the fact that it cannot obey. This is called hobbling the army. 2.
Line.
By attempting to govern an army in the
Game
same way as
over
he
again.
administers a kingdom, being ignorant of the conditions which obtain in an army. This causes restlessness in the soldiers' minds. 3. By employing the
Line.
officers of his army without discrimination, through ignorance of the military principle of adaptation to circumstances. This shakes the confidence of the soldiers. But when
Line.
the army is restless and distrustful,
Game over
trouble is
again.
sure to come from the other feudal princes. This is simply bringing anarchy into the army and flinging victory away. Thus we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory.
Line. Game
1.
over
He
again.
will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. 2. He will win who knows how to handle both
Game
superior and
over
inferior
again.
forces. 3. He will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. 4. He will win
Game
who,
over
prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. 5. He will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Hence the saying,
Line.
if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the
Game
result of
over
100
again.
battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither
Game
the enemy nor
over
yourself,
again.
you will succumb in every battle.
Game over again.
Chapter 4. Tactical Dispositions. Sun Tzu said, the good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat,
Game
and then
over
waited for
again.
an opportunity of defeating the enemy. To secure ourselves
Game
against defeat
over
lies
again.
in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. Thus, the good fighter is able to secure himself against defeat, but cannot make
Line.
certain of defeating the enemy. Hence the saying, one may know how to conquer
Game
without being able
over
to do
again.
it. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the
Game
defensive.
over again.
Standing on the defensive indicates insufficient strength. Attacking
Game
a
over again.
superabundance of strength. The general who is skilled in defense hides in the most secret recesses of the earth. He who is skilled in attack flashes forth from the
Game
topmost heights
over
of heaven.
again.
Thus, on the one hand, we have ability to protect ourselves. On the other, a victory that is complete. To see victory only when it is within
Line.
the ken of the common herd is not the acme of excellence. Neither is it the acme of excellence if you fight and conquer
Game
and the whole
over
empire
again.
says, well done. To lift an autumn hair is no sign of great
Game
strength.
over again.
To see the sun and moon is no sign of sharp sight. To hear the noise of thunder is no sign of a quick ear.
Game
What the
over
ancients
again.
called a clever fighter is one who not only wins, but excels in winning with ease. Hence his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom, nor credit for courage.
Line.
He wins his
Game
battles by
over
making
again.
no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy
Game
that is
over
already
again.
defeated. Hence, the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible, and does not miss the moment for defeating the
Game
enemy.
over again.
Thus it is that in war, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won. Whereas
Game
he who is
over
destined to
again.
defeat first fights, and afterwards looks for victory. The consummate leader cultivates the moral law, and strictly
Game
adheres to
over
method
again.
and discipline. Thus, it is in his power to control success. In
Game
respect of
over
military
again.
method, we have firstly measurement, secondly estimation of quantity, thirdly calculation, fourthly
Game
balancing of
over
chances,
again.
fifthly victory. Measurement owes its existence to earth, estimation of quantity to measurement, calculation
Game
to
over
estimation of
again.
quantity, balancing of chances to calculation, and victory to balancing of chances. A victorious army opposed to a routed one is as a pound's weight placed on a
Line.
scale against a single grain. The onrush of a conquering force is like the bursting of pent-up waters into a chasm 1,000 fathoms deep. Chapter 5.
Trying.
Energy.
Game
Sun
over
Tzu said,
again.
the control of a large force is the same principle as the control of a few men. It is merely a
Game
question of
over
dividing up
again.
their numbers. Fighting with a
Game
large army
over
under
again.
command is no wise different from fighting with a small one. It is merely a question of instituting
Game
signs and
over
signals
again.
to ensure that your whole host may withstand the brunt of the enemy's attack and remain
Game
unshaken.
over again.
This is effected by maneuvers direct and indirect, that the impact
Game
of your army
over
may be
again.
like a grindstone dashed against an egg. This is effected by the science of weak points and strong. In all
Game
fighting, the direct
over
methods
again.
will be used for joining battle, but indirect methods will be needed in order to secure victory. Indirect tactics, efficiently
Game
applied,
over.
are inexhaustible as
Again.
heaven and earth, unending as the flow of rivers and streams. Like the sun and moon,
Game
they end but to
over.
begin
Again.
new. Like the four seasons, they pass away to return once more. There are not more than 5 musical
Game
notes,
over.
yet the
Again.
combinations of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. There are not more than 5 primary colors: blue,
Game
yellow,
over.
red, white,
Again.
and black. Yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever been seen. There are not more than 5
Game
cardinal
over.
tastes:
Again.
sour, acrid, salt, sweet, bitter. Yet combinations of them yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. In battle, there are not more than 2
Game
methods of
over.
attack:
Again.
the direct and the indirect. Yet these two in
Game
combination give
over.
rise to
Again.
an endless series of maneuvers. The direct and the indirect lead onto each other in turn. It is like moving in a circle. You never come to an
Game
end.
over. Again.
You can exhaust the possibilities of their combination.
Game over.
The
Again.
onset of troops is like the rush of a torrent, which will even roll stones along in its course.
Game
The
over.
quality
Again.
of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. Therefore, the good
Game
fighter will be
over.
terrible
Again.
in his onset and prompt in his decision.
Game over.
Energy may
Again.
be likened to the bending of a crossbow, decision to the releasing of a trigger. Amid the turmoil and tumult of battle,
Game over.
there may be seen
Again.
disorder and yet no real disorder at all. Amid confusion and chaos, your array may
Game
be without
over.
head or tail,
Again.
yet it will be proof against defeat. Simulated disorder postulates perfect discipline.
Game
Simulated fear
over.
postulates
Again.
courage. Simulated weakness postulates strength. Hiding order beneath the cloak of disorder is simply a question of subdivision. Concealing courage under a show of
Line.
timidity presupposes a fund of latent energy. Masking strength with weakness is to be affected
Game
by tactical
over. Again.
dispositions. Thus, one who is skillful at keeping the enemy on the move maintains deceitful appearances, according to which the enemy will act. He sacrifices something that the enemy may snatch at.
Game over.
By holding
Again.
out baits, he keeps him on the march. Then, with a body of picked men, he lies in wait for him. The clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy
Line.
and does not require too much from individuals. Hence his ability to pick out the right men and utilize combined energy. When he utilizes combined energy, his
Triangle.
fighting men become
Game
as it were
over.
like
Again.
unto rolling logs or stones. For it is the nature of a log or stone to remain motionless on level ground and to move when on a slope, if four-cornered, to come to
Line.
a standstill, but if round-shaped, to go rolling down. Thus, the energy developed by good fighting men is as the momentum
Game
of a round
over.
stone rolls
Again.
down a mountain thousands of feet in height. So much on the subject of energy. Chapter 6. Weak Points and Strong.
Game
Sun
over.
Tzu
Again.
said, "Whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy
Game
will be
over.
fresh for
Again.
the fight. Whoever is second in the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive exhausted.
Game
Therefore, the
over.
clever
Again.
combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. By holding out advantages to him, he can cause the enemy to approach
Line.
at his own accord, or by
Game
inflicting
over.
damage,
Again.
he can make it impossible for the enemy to draw near. If the enemy is taking his ease, he can harass him. If well supplied with food, he can starve him out.
Game
If quietly
over.
encamped,
Again.
he can force him to move. Appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. An army will
Line.
march great distances
Game
without
over.
distress
Again.
if it marches through country where the enemy is not. You can be sure of succeeding in
Game
your attacks
over.
if
Again.
you only attack places which are undefended. You can ensure the safety of your defense if you only hold positions that cannot be attacked. Hence that general is skillful
Line.
in attack whose opponent does not know what to defend, and he is skillful in defense
Game
whose opponent
over.
does not
Again.
know what to attack. O divine art of subtlety and secrecy, through you we learn to be invisible, through you
Game
inaudible,
over.
and
Again.
hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. You may advance and be absolutely irresistible if you make for
Game
the enemy's
over.
weak
Again.
points. You may retire and be safe from pursuit if your movements are more rapid than those of the enemy. If we wish to fight, the
Game
enemy can be
over.
forced to
Again.
engagement even though he be sheltered behind a high rampart and a deep ditch. All
Game
we need to
over.
do is
Again.
attack some other place that he will be obliged to relieve. If we do not wish to fight, we can prevent the enemy from engaging us, even though the lines of our encampment be merely traced out on the ground. All we need do is to throw something odd and unaccountable in his
over
way.
again.
By discovering the enemy's dispositions and remaining invisible ourselves, we can keep our forces concentrated, while the enemies must be divided. We can form a single united body, while the enemy must split up into fractions.
Game
Hence,
over
there will
again.
be a whole pitted against separate parts of a whole, which means that we shall be many to the enemy's few. And if we are able thus to attack an inferior force
Game
with a
over
superior
again.
one, our opponents will be in dire straits. The spot where we intend to fight must not be
Game
made
over.
known, for then the enemy will have to prepare against a possible attack at several different points, and his forces being thus distributed in many directions, the numbers we shall have to face at any given point will be proportionately few.
Game
For should
over
the enemy
again.
strengthen his van, he will weaken his rear. Should he strengthen his rear,
Game
he will
over
weaken
again.
his van. Should he strengthen his left, he will weaken his right. Should he strengthen his right, he will weaken his left. If he sends reinforcements
Game
everywhere,
over
he will
again.
everywhere be weak. Numerical weakness comes from having to prepare against possible attacks. Numerical strength from compelling our adversary to make these preparations
Line.
against us. Knowing the place and the time of the coming battle, we may concentrate from the greatest distances in order to fight. But if neither time
Game
nor place
over
is
again.
known, then the left wing will be impotent to succor the right equally impotent to succor the left, the van unable to relieve the rear, or the rear to support
Line.
the van. How much more so if the furthest portions of the army are anything under 100 li apart,
Game
and even the
over
nearest
again.
are separated by several li. Though according to my estimate, the soldiers of UA exceed our own in number, that shall advantage them nothing in the matter of
Game
victory.
over again.
I say then that victory can be achieved. Though the enemy be stronger in numbers, we may prevent
Game
him from
over
fighting.
again.
Scheme so as to discover his plans and the likelihood of their success. Rouse him and learn the principle of his activity or inactivity. Force him
Line.
to reveal himself so as to find out his
Game
vulnerable
over
spots.
again.
Carefully compare the opposing army with your own, so that you may know where strength is
Game
superabundant
over
and
again.
where it is deficient. In making tactical dispositions, the highest pitch
Game
you can
over
attain is to
again.
conceal them. Conceal your dispositions, and you will be safe from the prying of the subtlest spies, from the machinations of the wisest brains.
Line.
Victory
Game
may be
over
produced for
again.
them out of the enemy's own tactics. That is what the multitude cannot comprehend. All men can see the tactics whereby they
Game
conquer,
over
but
again.
what none can see is the strategy out of which victory
Game
is evolved.
over again.
Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. Military tactics are
Line.
like unto water, for water in its natural course runs away from high places and hastens downwards. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong, or else to
Game
strike at what is
over
weak.
again.
Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation
Game
to the foe
over
he is
again.
facing. Therefore, just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare there are no constant conditions. He who can modify his
Line.
tactics in relation to his opponent
Game
and thereby
over
succeed
again.
in winning may be called a heaven-born captain. The five elements, water, fire, wood, metal,
Game
earth,
over
are not
again.
always equally predominant. The four seasons make way for each other. in
Game
turn.
over again.
There are short days and long. The moon has its periods of
Game
waning and
over
waxing.
again.
Chapter 7. Maneuvering. Sun Tzu said, in war, the general receives
Game over again.
Having collected an army and concentrated his forces, he must blend and harmonize the different elements thereof before pitching his camp. After that comes
Line.
tactical maneuvering, in which there is
Game
much more
over
difficulty.
again.
The difficulty of tactical maneuvering consists in turning the devious into the direct, and misfortune into gain. Thus,
Game
take a
over
long and
again.
circuitous route after enticing the enemy out of the way.
Game
And though
over
starting
again.
after him to contrive to reach the goal before him shows
Game
knowledge of the
over
artifice
again.
of deviation. Maneuvering with an army is advantageous, with an undisciplined multitude most dangerous. If you set a fully
Line.
equipped army in march in order to snatch an advantage, the chances are it will
Game
be too
over
late.
again.
On the other hand, to detach a flying column for the purpose involves the sacrifice of its baggage and stores.
Game
Thus,
over
if you
again.
order your men to roll up their buff coats and make forced marches without halting day or night, covering double the usual distance at a stretch, doing 100 li in order to wrest an advantage. The leaders of all your three divisions will fall into the hands of the enemy. The stronger men will be in front, the jaded ones will fall behind.
Game over again.
Only 1/10 of your army will reach its destination. If you march 50 li in order to outmaneuver the enemy, you will lose the leader of your first division, and only half your force will reach the goal.
Game
If you march
over
30
again.
li with the same object, 2/3 of your army will arrive. We may take it then that an army without its baggage train is lost. Without
Game
provisions,
over
it is
again.
lost. Without bases of supply, it is lost. We cannot
Game
enter into
over
alliances
again.
until we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors.
Game over
We are
again.
not fit to lead an army on the march unless we are familiar with the face of the country, its mountains and forests, its pitfalls and precipices, its marshes and swamps.
Line.
We shall be unable to turn natural advantage to account unless we make use of local guides. In war,
Game
practice
over
dissimulation,
again.
and you will succeed. Whether to concentrate or to divide your troops must be decided by circumstances. Let your rapidity be that of the wind,
Line.
compactness that of the forest. In raiding and plundering be like fire, in immovability like a mountain. Let your plans be dark and
Game
impenetrable
over
as night,
again.
and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. When you plunder a countryside, let the spoil be divided amongst your men. When you capture new territory,
Line.
cut
Game
it up into
over
allotments
again.
for the benefit of the soldiery. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. He will conquer who has learnt the artifice of
Game
navigation.
over
Such
again.
is the art of maneuvering. The Book of Army Management says,
Game
on the
over
field of
again.
battle, the spoken word does not carry far enough, hence the institution of gongs and drums. Nor can ordinary objects be seen clearly enough, hence the institution
Line.
of banners
Game
and
over
flags.
again.
Gongs and drums, banners and flags are means whereby the ears and eyes of the host may be focused on one particular point. The host thus forming a single united
Line.
body, is it impossible for
Game
the brave
over
to advance
again.
alone, or for the cowardly to retreat alone? This is the art of handling large masses of men. In
Game
night fighting
over
men
again.
make much use of signal fires and drums, and in fighting by day, of flags and banners, as a means of influencing the ears and eyes of your army. A
Line.
whole army may be robbed of its spirit. A commander-in-chief
Game
may be
over
robbed of
again.
his presence of mind. Now a soldier's spirit is keenest in the morning. By noonday it has begun to flag, and in the evening his mind is bent only on returning to
Line.
camp. A clever general, therefore, avoids an army when its spirit is keen, but attacks it when it is sluggish and inclined to return.
Game over
This is
again.
the art of studying moods, disciplined and calm, to await the appearance of disorder and hubbub amongst the enemy.
Game
This is the
over
art of
again.
retaining self-possession, to be near the goal while the enemy is still far from it, to wait at ease while the enemy is toiling and struggling,
Game over
to be
again.
well fed while the enemy is famished. This is the art of husbanding
Game
one's strength,
over again.
to refrain from intercepting an enemy whose banners are in perfect order, to refrain from attacking an army drawn up in calm and confident array. This is the art of
Line.
studying circumstances. It is a military axiom not to advance uphill against the enemy, nor to oppose him when he comes downhill. Do not pursue an enemy
Game
who simulates
over
flight.
again.
Do not attack soldiers whose temper is keen.
Game
Do not swallow
over
bait
again.
offered by the enemy. Do not interfere with an army
Game
that is
over
returning
again.
home. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. Such is the art of warfare.
Game over
Chapter 8.
again.
Variation in tactics. Sun Tzu said, "In war, the general receives his
Game
commands from
over
the sovereign,
again.
collects his army, and concentrates his forces. When in difficult country, do not encamp. In country
Game
where high
over
roads intersect,
again.
join hands with your allies. Do not linger in dangerously isolated positions. In hemmed-in situations, you must resort to stratagem.
Game over
In desperate
again.
position, you must fight. There are roads which must not be followed, armies which must be not
Game
attacked,
over
towns
again.
which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested, commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed. The general who thoroughly understands the advantages that accompany
Line.
variation of tactics knows how to handle his troops. The general who does not understand these may be
Game
well acquainted
over
with the
again.
configuration of the country, yet he will not be able to turn his
Game
knowledge to
over
practical
again.
account. So, the student of war who is unversed in the art of war of varying his plans, even though he be acquainted with the 5 advantages, will fail to make the best use of his men. Hence, in the wise leader's plans, consideration of advantage and disadvantage will be blended together. If our expectation of advantage be tempered, we will succeed in accomplishing the essential part of our schemes. If, on the other hand, in the midst of difficulties we are always ready to seize an advantage, we may extricate ourselves from misfortune. Reduce the hostile chiefs by inflicting damage on them, and make trouble for them, and keep them constantly engaged. Hold out some and make them rush to any given point. The art of war teaches us to rely not on the likelihood of the enemy's not coming, but on our own readiness to receive him, not on the chance of his not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our position unassailable. There are 5 dangerous faults which may affect a general. 1. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. 2. Cowardice, which leads to capture. 3. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. 4. A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. 5. Over-solicitude for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. These are the 5 besetting sins of a general, ruinous to the conduct of war. When an army is overthrown and its leader slain, the cause will surely be found among these 5 dangerous faults. Let them be a subject of meditation. Chapter 9. The Army on the March. Sun Tzu said, "We come now to the question of encamping the army and observing signs of the enemy. Pass quickly over mountains and keep in the neighborhood of valleys. Camp in high places facing the sun. Do not climb heights in order to fight." So much for mountain warfare. After crossing a river, you should get far away from it. When an invading force crosses a river in its onward march, do not advance to meet it in midstream. It will be best to let half the army get across and then deliver your attack. If you are anxious to fight, you should not go to meet the invader near a river which has to cross. Moor your craft higher up than the enemy and facing the sun. Do not move upstream to meet the enemy. So much for river warfare. When crossing salt marshes, your sole concern should be to get over them quickly, without any delay. If forced to fight in a salt marsh, you should have water and grass near you and get you back to a clump of trees. So much for operations in salt marshes. In dry, level country, take up an easily accessible position with rising ground to your right and on your rear, so that the danger may be in front and safety lie behind. So much for campaigning in flat country. These are the 4 useful branches of military knowledge, which enabled the Yellow Emperor to vanquish 4 several sovereigns. All armies prefer high ground to low, and sunny places to dark. If you are careful of your men and camp on hard ground, the army will be free from disease of every kind, and this will spell victory. When you come to a hill or a bank, occupy the sunny side, with the slope on the right rear. Thus you will at once act for the benefit of your soldiers and utilize the natural advantages of the ground. When, in consequence of heavy rains up country, a river which you wish to ford is swollen and flecked with foam, you must wait until it subsides. Country in which there are precipitous cliffs with torrents running between, deep natural hollows, confined places, tangled thickets, quagmires and crevasses should be left with all possible speed and not approached. While we keep away from such places, we should get the enemy to approach them. While we face them, we should let the enemy have them on his rear. If in the neighborhood of your camp there should be any hilly country, ponds surrounded by aquatic grass, hollow basins filled with weeds, or woods with thick undergrowth, you must be carefully routed out and searched. For these are places where men in ambush or insidious spies are likely to be lurking. When the enemy is close at hand and remains quiet, he is relying on the natural strength of his position. When he keeps aloof and tries to provoke a battle, he is anxious for the other side to advance. If his place of encampment is easy of access, he is tendering a bait. Movement amongst the trees of a forest shows that the enemy is advancing. The appearance of a number of screens in the midst of thick grass means that the enemy wants to make us suspicious. The rising of birds in flight is the sign of an ambuscade. Startled beasts indicate that a sudden attack is coming. When there is dust rising in a high column, it is
Game
a sign
over.
of chariots advancing. When the dust is low but spread over a wide area, it betokens the approach of infantry.
Game
When it branches out
over.
in different directions, it shows that parties have been sent to collect firewood. A few clouds of dust moving to and fro signify that the army is in camp.
Game over.
Humble words and increased preparations are signs that the enemy is about to advance. Violent language and driving forward as if to the attack are signs that he will retreat.
Line.
When the light chariots come out first and take up a position on the wings, it is a sign that the enemy is ready
Game
for battle.
over. Again.
Peace proposals unaccompanied by a sworn covenant indicate a plot. When there is much running about and the soldiers fall into rank, it means that the critical
Line.
moment has come. When some are seen advancing and some retreating, it is a lure. When the soldiers stand leaning on their spears, they are faint from want of
Quiet.
food.
Game
If
over.
those who
Again.
are sent to draw water begin by drinking themselves, the army is suffering from thirst. If the enemy
Game
sees an
over.
advantage to be
Again.
gained and makes no effort to secure it, the
Game
soldiers are
over.
exhausted.
Again.
If birds gather on any spot, it is unoccupied. Clamor by night betokens nervousness. If there is disturbance in the
Line.
camp, the general's authority is weak.
Game
If the
over.
banners and
Again.
flags are shifted about, sedition is afoot. If
Game
the officers
over.
are angry,
Again.
it means that the men are weary. When an army feeds its horses with grain and kills its cattle for food,
Game over.
and when the men
Again.
do not hang their cooking pots over the campfires, showing that they will
Game
not return to
over.
their
Again.
tents, you may know that they are determined to fight to the death. The sight of men whispering together in small knots
Game
or speaking
over.
in subdued
Again.
tones points to disaffection amongst the rank and file.
Game over.
Too
Again.
frequent rewards signify that the enemy is at the end of his resources. Too many
Game
punishments betray a
over.
condition
Again.
of dire distress. To begin by bluster, but afterwards to take fright at the enemy's numbers,
Game
shows a
over.
supreme lack of intelligence. When envoys are sent with compliments in their mouths, it is a sign that the enemy wishes for
Again.
a truce. If the enemy's troops march up angrily and remain facing ours for a long time without either joining battle or taking themselves off again, the situation is
Line.
one that demands great vigilance and circumspection. If our troops are no more
Game
in number
over.
than the enemy, that is amply sufficient. It only means that no direct attack can be made. What we can do is simply to concentrate
Game
all our
over.
available
Again.
strength, keep a close watch on the enemy, and obtain reinforcements. He who exercises no forethought but makes light of his opponents is sure to be captured by them.
Line.
If soldiers are punished before they have grown attached to you, they will not prove submissive, and unless submissive, then will be practically useless.
Triangle.
If, when the soldiers have become attached to you, punishments are not enforced, they will still be useless.
Excellent.
Therefore, soldiers must be treated in the first instance with
Game
humanity,
over.
but kept under control by means of iron discipline. This is a certain road to victory. If in training soldiers' commands are habitually enforced, the army will be well disciplined. If not, its discipline will be bad. If a general shows confidence in his men but always insists on his orders being obeyed, the gain will be mutual. Chapter 10.